I welcome you all to this interview come podcast setup where we have Naresh sir with us. Naresh sir is the director of Abhyaas Edu Technologies. Along with that, he is gold medalist from NIT Warangal. He has been to IIM Bangalore and he has worked with some of the prestigious institutes and organizations. But that's not the reason why he's here with us for logical reasoning. The reason why he's here with us is that he has scored 100 percentile in logical reasoning and data interpretation in one of the toughest exam, that is CLAT. Sir, I welcome you to this podcast.
Thank you, Chandan. I'm happy you gave this introduction because I felt, wherever I go, generally whenever I do sessions, I have introductions about my McKinsey, Stanford and things like that. I'm very happy, you focused on this part because I believe today's interview that we are doing for the benefit of CLAT takers at Abhyaas LawPrep.
Right.
I think this makes more sense than anything else.
Right.
And I believe now that you've given me this introduction, it gives me the confidence that I'm the right person for this interview.
Right.
As someone I've been a serial 100 percentiler in CAT. I've been a 99.9 percentiler overall in CAT, multiple years serial, both as student, even as teacher, after I've become a teacher also. But I'm very proud of myself that I've always focused on being a 100 percentiler in LRDI because logical reasoning appeals a lot to me, and I hope from my experience of logical reasoning, I hope I'm able to help you and through you students of Abhyaas LawPrep. Yeah.
Sir, so we have planned this session and we had already submitted certain things to the students saying that whatever doubts they have, they can reach out to us. Accordingly, we have planned this particular session. Right. So the first question which kicks in, right, or perhaps the most important thing is the nature of logical reasoning, something that the students don't understand. So my question is, logical reasoning being a very key component in CLAT and any other law entrance exam or any other competitive exams that the students will be writing in future, what should be their approach while they're learning or while they're doing logical reasoning?
I think before I get into the approach and things they can actually do to do this, Chandan, I want to ask you and through you the audience to understand why is it actually tested, right? Let's for a minute focus on why logical reasoning, critical reasoning forms such a huge backbone of some of these major exams across the world. We're talking about CLAT today, but exams like GMAT and CAT, the post-graduation exams that are considered gold standard in the at a higher level also. GMAT tests people heavily on CR, CAT tests people heavily on LR, and CLAT is anyway testing through logical reasoning and legal reasoning. Right. So that happens because there are few things that people need to understand. These professions, most of these people who try to, when you do CLAT or then you do CAT or GMAT, you are either being a manager, business manager, or you being a legal expert, right? So what you are expected to do is you are expected to grasp complex data and large data in a very quick period of time and analyze it enough to be able to come to some kind of conclusion, not just any conclusion, but right conclusion.
Correct.
And exam setters across the world have felt there's nothing better than critical reasoning as a skill to test this. So those who do well in critical reasoning, I have seen in my batch at IIM Bangalore and then Stanford and stuff like that, people are not, this critical reasoning is not just about cracking this exam, but if you are really good at critical reasoning, logical reasoning, you generally tend to be good at that particular profession also. That's why they test this. Right. And if you see, while GMAT and CAT focus a lot, the reasoning that they test is focused on business sets, interpretations, data and stuff like that, business sets. More critical reasoning in CLAT, I think, tends to focus a little more on news and, more on a bit of legal. You have a legal reasoning separately, but still, that is a context, that's a difference. I think that's something that first people need to understand. Now, I think to your question, right, when you said, what should be the approach towards doing this? What can actually be done? I think I've always told students that many people, many students, good students in fact, those who kind of get up to 70s are struggling to get to 80, 90s in CLAT. Right. And they kind of usually critical reasoning is their Achilles heel. That's where they're struggling.
Correct.
Now when they come to me, they talk to me, I keep asking them, are you reading? What kind of books are you reading? I think the lot of reading that these kids generally do is catering to their verbal reading comprehension, general reading speed and stuff. And then to some extent, general knowledge. People do current affairs, people do newspapers.
Right.
I think these people are mistaken to assume that critical reasoning is a knowledge. No, it is not.
Right.
Critical reasoning is very much a skill. So
based.
what happens is the students have to understand that to master, to kind of do a good scoring at critical reasoning, one should actually work on skill part of it, foundation part of it.
Right.
Now, that is what these kids are missing.
Right.
That's what I want to say. The foundation of critical reasoning is far more important than the knowledge part.
Right.
Knowledge part of critical reasoning, teachers like Chandan sir will give in the class, right?
Right.
But what about the foundation part? That's what I want to talk about.
Right. The foundation is mostly built on skill.
Foundation is
the
mostly
focus
built
should
on
be right.
critical reasoning as a skill. I think critical reasoning as a skill is the most under approached, under understood, understudied, undervalued, underdone part of competitive exams. And that's why, like you also, you're telling me just before this interview, I think critical reasoning is now the real, problem area for even the toppers.
Right,
That's
right,
what
right. Sir, so we have asked students, we have given this form and they have filled in their queries. So we'll take questions one after one. Right.
On the approach, you have questions on critical reasoning as approach?
There are a few questions. Students have this notion that only those who are very good with reading can do critical reasoning, or there are students who believe that if they have not been performing critical reasoning, they cannot do anything much about this. So is there anything as in like foundation or prerequisite that is like required in order to attempt this particular?
No, I think this is something that I've really wanted to touch. That's why I've kind of had to ask you.
Right.
See, please understand, when I say foundation for critical reasoning, the best foundation for critical reasoning need not only come from reading. Reading is definitely the best part that can actually help you critical reasoning.
Right.
But even someone who watch movies,
Right.
someone who watch web series,
Right.
even that can lead to critical.
So are we going to get some suggestions on that?
No, I think we can definitely discuss that. But I think it's more than the titles. I want to give you ideas of how to.
Right.
See, it's not about what book to read. It's not about what web series to watch, but it's about how.
How?
I think the fundamental foundational pillars, I call it, I have a small acronym for that.
Right.
COPS, COPS. Right? The four foundational pillars on which critical reasoning as a skill can be developed, Chandan. First, C, curiosity. When we watch a movie, we all know there are two ways of watching a movie. You're waiting for the director to lead you into the movie.
Right.
And the second thing is you started questioning what next. What will happen?
Right.
In fact, there are people, I have seen people who are able to predict a lot of theories, fan theories and stuff like that. So I think that indicates a bit of reasoning, right? That is the first thing, curiosity.
Right.
So much curiosity. I think students should have so much curiosity in being able to predict, estimate, right, previous and stuff like that.
Right.
And you should have curiosity to kind of absorb and listen and stuff. That's one.
Right.
Second thing is open-mindedness. What I mean is, a lot of times, I'm a binge watcher and some web series, and like you said, a lot of names and stuff we can definitely discuss off camera. But I think when I read a lot of fan theories, some fan theories sound so great. They actually look better than the actual series, right?
Right.
And some fan theories look so absurd that the reason being because those people are not open-minded.
Right.
Those people have kind of stuck to one thing that they have.
Right.
The second thing that the second pillar on which critical reasoning can be built for students is open-mindedness. Isn't you're open to stuff, you're open to kind of explanations, you're open to viewpoints. I think that makes a lot of difference in building good critical reasoning mind, right? Third thing that I say is basically, when we say, I said COPS, right? Patience, right? Critical reasoning is not a skill like math, not a skill like verbal. It is knowledge. It's not knowledge. It is not even to some extent like your legal, where you have some contracts and criminal law. You cannot pick that up.
Correct.
So it has to have a lot of patience. It has to have, it's like a skill, right? It's like an art. You need to do that. And the last thing that I say is a little bit of self-awareness, because whether we like it or not, all of us, you, me, sitting here in front of this camera,
Right.
when we're doing this, we all come with our own biases.
Right.
There's no way that we can't have biases. The kind of places we born into, the kind of situations we were through, we all have inherent biases, cognitive biases.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with having biases. The idea is to how to overcome those biases. I think if they can understand self-awareness, that's why I say COPS, right? COPS as I call it.
Right.
Curiosity, open-mindedness,
patience,
and then this will become the foundation of building critical reasoning in the longer run. Right. Not just for the exam, but someone who really wants to be a good critical listening guy. It could be lawyer in this context. It could be someone who wants to be a manager, team leader. It could be someone who wants to be a CEO. It could be someone who wants to be a leader. It could be someone who wants to be an administrator. I think if you really want to be a good thinker, good solver, good reasoning guy, this is what you should be doing. Yeah,
right. So it's more like a life skill.
Absolutely. I feel that.
Right. So there's this question that students have asked, and this is the question that has again and again surfaced. Time is the essence of this exam.
Right.
CLAT, if you see the mock paper or the actual paper also, it's very thick, perhaps the heaviest paper.
Right.
Now the question is, you have to read a lot within that 120 minutes. You have to comprehend. If I go technically, you have to draw inferences, conclusions, everything within that 120 minutes.
Right.
And that too, if we talk about logical reasoning, if we divide the time, it becomes even more difficult.
Right. I understand.
So how can you quickly absorb what you're reading or what you're comprehending? Do we need to arrange it? How do you proceed with this particular aspect?
I think time is of the essence in any competitive exam.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't want to make Abhyaas LawPrep students and people who are writing CLAT feel that they are invincible. But I genuinely believe like doing 120 questions in 120 minutes with so much reading, I believe that's like superhuman task. And I kind of have for all those who are giving it their best, I think we have a huge, because it's not just about cracking CLAT, but these guys, because I see bigger exams, like, when you talk about GMAT, CAT, all these exams, they have a lot more time,
Right.
Yes, the questions will definitely be of a higher order magnitude, but still. So in that context, I would very much agree with you on the time part. I think the biggest thing that students need to understand is when you kind of attack a critical reasoning passage, there are 100 things that are thrown at you, right? Statements, assumptions, conclusions, inferences, right? Implicit, explicit, strengthening, weakening, whatnot, to course of actions. Lot of those words come to you, right? Now, all these words that come to you, judgments, opinions, facts, whatnot, a lot of these come in critical reasoning.
Right.
And you can have 10, 20, 30 of these words as a glossary.
Right.
But I believe the three primacy, if you can understand three basics of critical reasoning, all these 10, 20 terms that you kind of defined, there are only three building blocks of these things.
Right.
Just like our body has 100 different things, right? But primarily what we take, the proteins, carbohydrates, fats make it, right? Like that, if you can think of something like that. I think three primary things that we have to understand is, first thing, what are premises, what are conclusions, and what are assumptions. I always ask my students, I always ask anyone who is trying to reason with me, not just as students, even managers who come to me for a solution, issues and stuff.
Right.
I focus on their premises, their conclusions, and their assumptions.
Right.
Premises are the facts, the data, that supporting arguments, supporting points that are leading to something. They are not themselves an output. They are themselves, these are inputs towards an output. That is premises. That can be a fact, that can be an opinion, that can be anything, right? And then there are things called conclusions. Conclusions are main idea of a passage, basically are the output. What is the author finally trying to say? It is usually found in the end of the paragraph, end of the passage. Prefaced with words like therefore, hence, right? Not this, but also, those kind of connecting words, transition words are they called. And the third thing is basically assumption that's actually taking it from this to this. So there are inputs, there are outputs, and there are the bridges which are not there. They're imaginary. As in, author is trying to say X, Y, Z leading to A, something like that, right? Those X, Y, Z become your supporting arguments or your premises. Right? And then you have the conclusion. A lot of times author does not say few things.
Right.
So whatever has been said connects to output. That imaginary bridges are basically the assumptions. Now you look at anything else in critical reasoning, right? What happens is they kind of connect with this. I'm sure, when people talk about, people ask me this interesting question. On this line, I want to explain that part also. People ask me, what is the difference between an inference? What can you infer from the passage? What is the conclusion of the passage? The fundamental difference between an inference and conclusion is same. Inference is also the output. What is the output of the passage? Right? Conclusion is also output.
Right.
That is where students get confused. Right. What can be inferred from this line? What can be inferred from this passage? The main thing is conclusion is what the author himself or herself says. Inference is basically something you can derive even though the author is not saying. That's a fundamental difference between inference and conclusion. But do understand, both inference and conclusion are outputs of that particular argument. Right. They're not inputs, they're not assumptions.
So can I say conclusion is one such inference which the author intends to convey?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're very right. Conclusion is the author's inference himself, author herself, right? Inferences can be many, conclusions can be some. Right? That's what it is all about. So when they take up a passage, they give you a question, what can you infer from the passage? It means they are definitely looking for something which is beyond conclusion or which is not mentioned in conclusion. That's what it means.
Right. So a conclusion cannot be an inference that way because
conclusion is one of the inference.
Right.
I'll say conclusion is one of the inference that's already made.
Right.
If the question asks you what can you infer from the passage, I mean even conclusion can be inferred, but I think it's already made. It is not something that you need to make newly. That's a difference. Right.
So this set of question was asked by Rahul from Repeaters 1 batch of Kukatpalli and Pratap from Secunderabad batch. That's comprehensive batch of 2026. Hopefully they got the answer to this question.
I hope, yeah.
So we'll move to the next question, sir.
Right.
Now this question is very interesting. This has been asked by Lisha from Repeaters 1 batch of Kukatpalli. She's asking, biases and paradox can be particularly challenging in critical reasoning. Right? Biases and paradox creep into students' mind. What are different kind of biases or paradoxes which can creep into students' mind, which can create confusion or rather increase the difficulty level?
Right. So Chandan, as you know, Meek Tilsu, as you know, I think biases. I mean, as a CEO of a company and someone who is helping multiple CEOs themselves, I have done the one thing that I work exhaustively is biases. In fact, I keep doing employee trainings. I think recently I've done one training for you guys also.
I was part of
I talk about a lot of cognitive biases.
Right.
There's no end to them, right? I have actually, at my last count, I think 40 plus biases I have kind of compiled. I kind of focus on them regularly. But in the context of CLAT students, I think let's talk about paradoxes and biases connected to CLAT students. I think I have 2-3 important things that I want to bring up to this, right? The first thing that they have to understand is the paradox that CLAT students have is paradox of choices, as I call it. Right? What happens is same critical reasoning passage, but instead of multiple choice questions, assume I give the students a question like, I do a passage, then I give a statement and ask true, false. Then I give a statement and say yes or no. Trust me, students will find it a lot more easier. Here the paradox is of choices. What happens is the more the choices, the more the decision making, the more the confusion, more the toughness. That is what is one paradox that's affecting the students. The second thing that I want to kind of say bias, there are two kind of biases that kind of affect from this paradox that's impairing their critical reasoning is. One is the bias of confirmation, right? We all are product of our upbringing, the birth, our family.
That we have been.
Absolutely. We all have ingrained set of beliefs and values. There's no belief and value we can say is better than the other, but we all have our own set of beliefs and values. Right? The world is inherently, there's contradicting beliefs and values. It's always a fight between beliefs and values. Lot of times students have a problem of confirmation bias where they have a set of beliefs and values, and when they read a passage, if the author, he or she is trying to convey something which is not true to their belief, they might not be able to accept it. They might not be able to understand it. They might not be able to flow with it. Now that's one thing that I'm seeing a lot of times. That is one issue that they have. The other kind of bias, similar but a little different, is other biases, anchoring bias as I call it. This is not connected so much to your belief, so much to your persona, so much to what you are, but it's connected so much to what you have read about it. This happens even in GK and legal also. Assume there's a particular argument. You see a lot of times how people form opinions about anything that happened in the real world, right? Something recently, some debate sparked out and things are happening. Usually most of the people, that is the irony. This is called anchoring bias. The first information you receive about that particular incident, that particular issue, you form an opinion. And you're not able to move on from that. That is anchoring bias. How do people form opinions about which political party to support? How do people form opinion about a lot of these things? Irony is we have a lot of anchoring bias. That is, you kind of committed yourselves to one view. You kind of committed yourself to one thing and then you're not able to move on from there. In critical reasoning, in CLAT kind of exams, what I have seen is students have, for example, they read, there's a passage which have 2-3 paragraphs, right? Then they kind of read something, they commit, they have an understanding of one line and they commit that as a passage.
Right. Right.
So that means they are converting, probably the author is intending something as a premise. They're introducing a character. If I have to take an analogy, these are teenagers, so I want to take an analogy. There's a 2-3 paragraph passage, there are 300 word passage. In the first 50 words, the author is trying to say something. For author, it might be a premise.
Right.
For the author, it might be a supporting argument. For the author, it's like a movie, a supporting character. They're introducing something. But the kids, by then, they've anchored themselves, that to be the conclusion, that to be the main idea, and they're not able to move on from there. So these 3 things, paradox of choices, anchoring bias, and
Confirmation
bias. These are 3 things that generally affect students. I mean, at least at their age, I would say these are 3 main issues they have, why they find critical reasoning so dense, so confusing and stuff like that.
So this is like a self-diagnosis that you have told.
Yeah,
I would also want you to tell the treatment also. Once they realize that they have a particular bias or they're suffering with one particular kind of thing, what is that they have to do in order to be comfortable or in order to overcome these kind of things?
Right. I think the 2 things, for each of these 3 things, I'll give you some ideas. Some of them are in the exam, at the exam, doable. Some of them have to be done outside the exam also. Right. For example, for the paradox of choice thing, one good way to do it is, whenever you have a question and when you have choices that you're confused with. In fact, when you have 2 close options, we'll discuss that also probably. I don't know. But I think you have to start treating it as a single statement and say yes, no. It will become easy for your life. Instead of treating it as a 4 choices, take that one choice and say yes, no. Take that one choice and say true, false. I think life will become a lot more easier. That's one tip you can say. That's an exam tip. Trust me, many thousands of students have benefited on this. Instead of treating 4 options and confusing yourself what is right, take A and say, should I say yes, no? Elimination of options becomes a lot more easy in critical reasoning if you apply this. Your paradox of choice is taken away. Gone. You do this, right? Number 2, when it comes to confirmation bias, you cannot really do so much in the exam. Confirmation bias is your beliefs, value system, X, Y, Z. I think the best way to overcome that is a longer term thing. Like I said, very much like foundational skill and stuff. I keep telling kids, right, what are you doing to kind of improve your critical reasoning, right? They form a lot of study groups. Kids in this generation, I think they're stronger than my generation and I don't know, your generation. They're too smart about how to do things fast, how to do things better, efficiently. Absolutely. But one thing they're not able to figure out is, whatever is a fast food, they can do it. Whatever is not fast food, they're not able to do it. Study groups are formed to kind of divide and conquer. That's good. But what about forming debate groups, I call it. You have to have debate groups. You have to have your own, argument parties. You have all kind of parties. Why don't you create an argument party, debate groups, where you kind of take, this need not come from the institution or a teacher. But what can happen is students can actually take up, hey, let's talk about what are the main issues that have raised this week, this day, and kind of you have a group within 4 or 5 people and you have to definitely force yourself because you all have a confirmation bias. All of you might be, because you're friends, there's a great chance that you're all predisposed towards the same side. But the irony is you force yourself, try to
take the side which goes against your confirmation.
And do that regularly. Trust me, it will work like magic. It will do a lot. I think this helped me in my own student life. What used to happen is we used to kind of have this. See, we all have innate biases. I'm not asking you to kind of, change them, right? But I'm only saying in the context of the decision making, don't let that come in. That's what I'm saying. So try to kind of do that. Debate parties, debate groups, debate study groups, not just exam study groups. That will help a lot. Even in very short span of time or a long span of time, that's a great idea. In fact, one thing that I do, a lot of people, when I'm in 40s now, generally, from the time 20s, maybe, I used to push my friends used to have this thing with me. I'm not a great, I don't have other kind of avarices that my friends enjoy with me. But one thing that they always enjoy with me is whenever I get invited everywhere because with me, they get a chance to kind of debate. What happens is they know that whatever side they have, they can always say, hey, Naresh, can you provide the other side? Can you provide a different context? I think somehow that has helped me. That has helped me a lot. I think even today when we are in, like my friends, my juniors who are in late 30s and early 40s, when we meet, I think we have a lot of fun doing that. I'm saying that's something that really helps them also. So kindly, I suggest all students to form debate groups, debate study groups, argument study groups, pick up issues that come up and take a stand. Not just read the news, but go beyond the news and say, you might not be able to do it about 100 news that come every day, but why don't you pick up at least one news a day, 10 news in a week, and talk about that. Spend half an hour, 40 minutes in that. And trust me, it will change a lot. Then you can talk about, and the better thing is, don't just talk. Use professional language, right? You already know, unlike laymen, you are CLAT students.
Right.
You know what is a premise, what's an argument, what's a conclusion. Focus on that. When you are trying to do that, it will help you a lot.
So argument should be built logically
Absolutely,
on the...
absolutely. When we talk about moot courts in law schools or model United Nations in schools and stuff, a lot of people focus on the physicality of it, the showcasing part of it. But actual context is this. This is how people are built. So I suggest that to overcome the thing. And last, anchoring bias. Anchoring bias, the easiest way to do it is when you're solving questions, do not make an understanding of the passage in the first few lines. Wait for the last line to come.
Right.
The cricket match is not over till the last ball.
Right.
Election result is not over till the last vote is count.
Right.
A passage ka main argument does not come before the last line is read.
Right.
That's what people need to understand. That's it.
Right. That was wonderful, sir. I hope that would be useful to the students who are suffering from these biases, because even I have come across students who suffer from this, and this is absolutely wonderful suggestion, sir. Can we move to the next question?
Yes,
sir?
absolutely.
Right. So this question has been asked by Pragna and Abhinav from repeater 1 batch of Kukatpalli and repeater 2 batch of Kukatpalli respectively. What they're asking is, should a student attempt a passage which they are not familiar with? Say that there are passages on space and technology. A person who doesn't know about anything about technology, should he attempt such question? If he attempts such question, what is the limit, or what should be the thing that he should keep in mind while attempting such questions?
Okay. So when I was preparing for CAT, we used to call them abstract passages.
Right.
For us, abstract as a word, abstract is basically a theme, as a kind of genre and stuff like that. But when I was a student of CAT, when I was preparing for CAT, we students used to have this term abstract for anything which is unfamiliar. If something is unfamiliar to me, unknown to me, if I'm not able to make sense of it, I call it abstract. That's how this thing was there. I don't know if people use the word abstract even today, abstract passages, abstract themes. But I think I found an interesting way to handle abstract passages. Even the worst, see, if you have a movie which is abstract to you, that is unfamiliar to you, you would not watch it. Right?
Right.
If it's something that you're doing for pleasure, you will avoid it.
Right.
But what about you facing an abstract thing in your professional life? In your exam, in this case,
or
in my case, I'm handling an employee, a team, a situation, a business situation, a vendor, abstract kind of situation. I can't give up.
Right.
So what I've learned is, you cannot attack it directly. A dense passage, a dense paragraph, this thing. I think a better way to do it is always flip it out. You flip it out inside out, right?
Right.
So what I'm suggesting is, when you find a passage which is very overwhelming for you, start going to questions. Leave the passage for a minute, go to questions. Usually what I found is, even the worst of the passages, you will have a couple of questions which you can answer. And not only answer, it will give you confidence on the passage itself if you want to continue further.
So maybe that will help in other questions.
Absolutely. Right. Other questions as well. That you were talking about, you had a passage you want to discuss on this.
Right. So after I read this question, I made sure that something is there so that we can discuss. So we have asked the same students to give certain suggestions, and they have given this passage from the mock 2527.
Okay. This is one mock. Okay. Mock number 2527. Okay.
Right. So I would want how to do this operation here.
Right. Let's try. Okay. I mean, this is something that let's try. Okay.
So this is the passage.
This is the passage that has come. Okay. Okay. I mean, because you told me already it's like abstract for students, I went to source. See the source here. Right, reading Sedgwick by Lauren Berlant, right? Automatically, the author, the context itself tells me that this is not something that they can, it's not easy for kids. What are the words that are there? Paradoxical literature, right? Formalism, formalist, right? A lot of these terms. Okay, fine, this is...
I don't know whether it will be difficult for you or not, but students have found this very difficult.
For a minute, I'm trying to, I think I'll be honest. See, the moment I see some words, those lot of times abstractness or denseness comes, Chandan, not because of the theme. A lot of people mistake, like you also said, space and technology and stuff like that.
Right.
Sometimes a passage or a paragraph can be about a topic that you don't know at all.
Right.
But it can look beautiful.
Right.
Sometimes it can be about a topic you know, but it can be written in a very abstruse manner because of the language and because stuff like that. So in this context, you can see the problem is so much with the words used, right? I can definitely see some of those words at least, okay? So let's do one thing. I don't want to kind of focus on the passage for now because like I said, I want to, if I'm a student, I just want to help the kids.
Right.
Like you said, I might be able to read the passage and make sense out of it. Why should I do that?
Right.
Because this is something that we are doing for ALPNs.
Right.
Let's kind of say, let's go to questions. Let's flip. Let's flip. Let's switch the flip. And let's say, I don't know, this passage is not understood by me. Let's see what do we do with the questions.
Right.
Let's try that approach.
Right. So,
yeah. Firstly, let's see. Author is least likely to agree with which of the following. Now, this is a question I cannot do anything about because I don't really have an idea of the passage itself.
Right.
If I have to have the idea of this question, I should know what is the main idea of the passage. Because I did not read it, because I did not comprehend, I'll not attempt.
Right.
Okay, let's see. I mean, I'm assuming the 3 to 4 questions per passage.
Yeah, 4 to 5 questions.
4 to 5. So I think my goal would be to kind of at least find.
So the first take that I would learn from this is that when we are flipping also, it's not necessary that the first question will give us the hint.
No way.
We have to read
no
till
need,
the end.
No need, no need. I'm saying, in fact, questions which require you to have a passage understanding, it's good to kind of don't waste your time. Leave it. You will have at least a couple of questions. I'm sure I can show you where you can apply, like I said, the flipping. Let's show that. Yeah, next.
What about second question?
What is it? Which of the following is true regard to the last line? This is an example of a flip. Beautiful switch we can make. Hey, it's so much clearly telling you, don't care about the passage. Focus on the last line.
Right.
Focus on the last line. Now here also, that means what? I can go back, read the last line and then do the question. Before even going there, I want you to read the options. Just get the options, right? Author felt she was superior to the text. Author found it difficult to trust the text. Now this automatically, this means this question is all connected to author and the text, right? Author superior to text, author found difficult, author felt superior to people of her generation, and finally author's approaching text was different. Am I correct?
Right.
Now we have some idea about this entire question is about debate between the tussle between author and the text, author and the thing. Okay, let's go to the last line.
The last line?
Yeah. Can you go to the last line? Yeah, let's read the last line. Can you read the last line for me, Chandan? You read it for me.
At any rate, becoming a perverse reader was never a matter of my condensation to text, rather of the surplus charge of my trust in them to remain powerful, refractory and exemplary.
Right. So in this case, condescension is my key word. Condescension means look down.
Right.
Now, condescension is a word whoever understands, great.
Right.
For a minute, assume you don't understand that also. Vocabulary here, condescension. Never a matter of condescension. That means I'm not looking it down, right? That's what it means.
Right.
But for a minute, assume some students would not know the meaning of condescension.
Right.
Let's look at rather. Say, the moment something has come rather, that means more than that, something else is there.
Right.
Before the word rather, something is there. After the word rather, something is there.
Instead of that, this.
Right. Now, what is it being said? Let's rather surplus, positive, of trust, positive, powerful, positive, exemplary, positive, exemplary. That means it's not bad but good.
Not negative
but good.
Rather positive.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now, the moment it says, so my being a reader, the word is my being a perverse reader. Perverse is I'm going against, right? Perversity, that you are going against.
Right.
I'm going against, not because I'm negative about it, but I rather believe it is positive. Right. Now let's go to options. Trust me, it will become a lot more simpler.
I have already started feeling that confidence.
Right. You can, let's see, first option.
She was superior, that brings the negative to
right. She's not doing that. She's not saying she's superior to the text.
Right.
Author found it difficult to trust the text.
That looks negative.
Trust to the text is not at all there. Right.
This is again, I guess, that rather se pehle wala cheez. The thing that
author felt there's no connection to the people of our generation at all.
Right.
There's only with her and the reading, right?
Text.
So the third is gone. Read the fourth one.
This way of approaching a text was different from this.
Right. So because I am a different reader, perverse reader, I'm a different reader, I would rather not treat it as badly, condescendingly, negatively, downward. I don't look it downward. I rather find it uplifting. Right. That's the thing. So automatically this entire thing is different from the other things. I would say the answer for this is D. Now, I did not read the passage. I did not know what the passage is about. I did not know what Bell Laurent is trying to say. I really don't know.
Right.
but I could get the answer.
Can I challenge you with one more?
Yeah, let's try a couple
Because
more.
if I do this much, I would want at least 2 questions to.
Sure, let's
go
try.
for.
I'm also saying
This work.
all the questions might not work. The goal is, by the way, in an abstract passage, to do not all the questions. But if you can do a couple of questions, it can give you confidence to go back to the passage and read. See, a lot of stoppers, for those who are trying to get into this 80s, 90s, 100s, they are getting to the 70s and they are not able to do it. Sometimes they are having time, but they are not able to do it.
Right.
My doing this question is not only to help do one question, but if you do this question, you get the confidence, you can go back and read the passage. That's also an idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So by answering this question, maybe we will get hint to some other questions.
Absolutely.
Even the question that we left earlier.
We might get. Yeah, we'll let's kind of go and see the next questions. Let's try to answer 1 or 2 more and see if we can get something. Yeah. First thing, what is it?
Which of the following is a valid conclusion from the passage?
I would say give it a pass, hard pass. Thank
Conclusion
you.
needs
I really
entire
don't know,
reading.
have an idea, right?
Right.
Next.
Which of the following tool does not contribute to the structure meaning of the passage in any way?
I think this we can try. I'll tell you why. I've read only 2 lines.
Right.
Last lines you read for me.
Last line, yeah.
At least from there, I might not be able to get an answer. Let's at least eliminate, right?
Right.
Last line that she said about herself.
Right.
She said about her own thing.
Right.
Let's kind of see what is there.
First one says first person narrative.
Absolutely,
So it is
that's-
first person narrative.
Right?
Right.
Personal occurrence, first person narrative are similar, right?
Right.
It's connected to her, it's narrating and stuff.
Right.
Comparison and contrast. That is very much visible in the last line you read for me.
There was
right?
contrast, complete contrast.
I rather this, I did this, or rather I did not see it like this, I did this like this.
Right.
Am I clear? Digression is basically option D, right?
Right.
We are basically saying moving away from the topic. In fact, whenever such question comes, I want to give a small hint to the kids, to the students here. Which of the following not, under the word not here?
Oh, not is there. Okay,
Not
I
is there.
did
You
not
don't
observe
read
that. I did not observe that.
Not, right? Otherwise,
Right.
if you don't read the not, first option is right, option B is right, everything is right.
That's what I was thinking. That
Yeah.
A should be the answer. Right.
So because there's a not, A, she definitely is giving her own first narrative because I rather this and that.
Right.
Comparison and contrast she's doing. Answer for this has to be D, digression. Because digression is basically move away from one topic to something else.
A deviation.
Deviation, right? Digression is a deviation.
Right.
Moving away. Now, what happens is most of your CR passages,
Right.
at least at exam level, most of them, I'm not saying 100%, but most probable 99% of the time, they cannot use digression as an approach for the passage.
Right.
Digression as approach can work in a novel, in a novella. Right? When you're reading a novel, the author is trying to paint a character, they want to go to a subplot and stuff like that. It will
Right.
work. Less like Game of Thrones guy talking about some other thing, right?
Right.
But it's not going to work in an exam. So even with reading, I said the moment I see digression, it makes a lot more sense. But with the last line, I can confidently say digression is the answer because she is definitely talking about her own thing.
Right.
First person narrative has come. Comparison,
Personal
contrast has definitely come. Personal occurrence not directly there in the last line.
Right.
But if she's talking about I rather do this, not this, that means she has explained her own story. Automatically the answer for this is digression.
Right.
I've answered 2 questions out of the 4 questions. And
again, the same thing. The previous question helped us in understanding why C is there. Contrast.
Absolutely. Comparison and contrast.
So interlinks are important.
So whenever you have a tough passage, whenever you have a dense passage, abstract passage, please let the kids know. We should tell the students that it is not really about how much you understand,
Right.
but go from questions.
Right.
Don't
Flip
waste-
and
flip.
go
Flip.
to
Flip is the thing that I want to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Can we move to the next question,
Please.
sir? Right.
Yeah.
The next one is regarding, now this is something which is asked in all of the sections, but we will stick to CR here.
Okay.
Right. The thing is, this has been asked by Kavya Reddy from Kavya Reddy and Aprajita from our Sikandrabad and Kukarpalli branch. They're asking what to do when you get stuck with 2 options. Or sometimes the options create confusion. I am very good with the passage. I understood everything. When I come to the options, I feel like whatever I have understood or whatever I have comprehended, it's wrong only.
Okay. Now I think I call it, this is a problem with when you read a lot, this happens. When you overcomplicate things, right? This happens. I think I have a simple technique for this. When you have 2 close options, how do you really decide which of them is right? Right? I have a simple yes/no answer for this. I have a simple true/false answer for this. Like I said, convert the paradox of choices into reduce the choice.
Reduce the choices, right?
So these 2 options you have, say B and C, A and C, B and D, whatever it is. I have a MMT technique. This is my technique right from the time I've started coaching from 2010.
Right.
I call it message, method, and tone. Any author, when you read the passage, usually when I say two close options, you have already read the passage. It's not like for this kind of abstract, right? So message is basically what is the main idea of the passage.
Right.
Which of the two options is more connected to message? Which of the two options is not connected to the message? You will be able to eliminate some of the answers there. Hey, two of them look right, but one of them is more connected to the actual main idea, actual main conclusion of the passage. The other is not. You can eliminate. Point one. Right? Sometimes at that level, answers will not come because two close answers, because it's about a specific context in the passage. Right? It could be like last line, last paragraph, what did the author mean, etc., etc. Sometimes then the message technique will not work. I told MMT, three techniques. Right? MMT is not just steel rods. I kind of say MMT is critical reasoning also. Right? The second thing is method. Every author has a method in which they are trying to write the passage. Right? They have a method. For example, like I said, personal first handwriting, comparing and contrasting. It could be a descriptive passage. It could be a narrative passage. I mean, anything, right? You're analyzing with examples. You're analyzing with contradictory things, this versus that, or you're giving supporting examples. I don't know. You're giving a chronological thing. You have a method about a passage. What is the way the passage is? That is called method. Which of them looks to be in the same method? Two answers look right with respect to message. Correct. Both connected to the main idea of the passage. Right. But only one of them actually follows the method of the passage, other does not. It looks to be in the same thing. If the entire passage is about giving reasons, giving logic to the thing, and this one of them is giving logic while the other is just stating some kind of outside thing, might not work. So if entire passage is about narrative, it is narrating a particular context, and the two options that you chose, one of them fits the narrative, the other one looks like a scientific evidence coming from somewhere. You know which to eliminate. Right? And the third thing, last, usually tone level is very difficult, but at this age, at students' age, but this is something I found in GMAT and this thing. Tone is what is the author's tone towards things? Author is like, pessimistic, optimistic, nihilistic. I mean, nihilistic is a big word for these kids, but what is the tone? Sarcastic. You know how the author is trying to project the main point, trying to project the point in what method and what tone. Every author has a tone. It could be a casual tone. It could be a serious tone. It could be a sarcastic, criticism and stuff. Sometimes of the two options, you can also eliminate if both of them look too close enough. Message-wise close, method-wise close, you can then say tone. Does it fit the tone of the tone tenor of the author? If you apply this MMT technique, as I call it, I think you can eliminate your options. And then last thing, after MMT, I keep suggesting students, if you have eliminated two options and you are only looking at the last two options, I always say go with your gut after MMT. Apply MMT, go with it. Don't waste your time.
MMT, then gut.
Gut, that's it. Yeah.
This was really something that I have learned here. But I regret one thing. I have taken this question. I should have taken a question for this as well. We should have applied one MMT here.
MMT, yeah.
But we'll do one thing. We will open the comment box. We'll add question and accordingly we'll...
Absolutely. What we can see, Chandan, what we should do is, because this is an interview we planned only for general critical reasoning. In fact, I was telling you that after this interview, even this interview, I don't know, half an hour interview might not answer everything, right? So what I'm thinking is, let's kind of build a 15-20 page booklet on whatever we're discussing and create it like a handbook. Master handbook by me, give it to all the students of Abhyaas LawPrep and anyone who reaches out to us. And then what I suggest is all the various techniques I'm talking about, Chandan. I'm definitely happy with you, kind of, whenever you bring from questions from your mock tests, questions from old papers, questions from students, let's kind of try and apply these techniques on various sets and kind of create videos out of it. I'm happy to do that. I can help you. You guys can do that.
Surely, sir. We will plan one such thing. And also the booklet thing, I will make sure that by the time this video comes out, we pin that particular thing in the book so that it acts as a reference.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll move to the next question, sir. What are some of the common mistakes? Now, this has been asked by Vamsi Krishna of Repeaters batch from Kukatpalli and Tanya from Secunderabad batch. They're asking, what are some of the common mistakes that students usually do that can be avoided in order to, score good marks?
I think, we covered a lot in the last much time, but to kind of summarize or to kind of quickly put them in points, I say main things I would say is, one is people misread the questions. Chandan, you just did that along with me, right?
I did it.
Right, you missed the not. Or people, which of the following does not strengthen? They read it strengthen. Not strengthen. becomes weakening. Which of the following is least likely? Most of the time, critical reasoning is not really about your reasoning, but it's your alertness, presence of mind with respect to reading the question properly. The first classical mistake most of the kids make is they make mistake in reading. So the author says, which of the following is least likely to be agreed with? What does it actually mean? Least likely to agree means you disagree.
Right.
Am I right? Which of the following is most likely? Least like, you get what I'm saying? So reading the question properly is half the game.
The demand of the question is something that
question is to be understood. That's the first mistake. Second thing that people make a mistake out of is they have never ever found the main idea of the passage. What I found students doing is most of the time then they read CR, they mistake CR for reading comprehension. Reading comprehension in verbal is very much, you're talking about some questions on vocabulary, some questions on this and stuff, immediate understanding of it, but critical reasoning is far beyond that. So unlike RC, you have to definitely do your, like I said, MMT technique. Message, method, tone. You have to, what is the main message? Which are premises? What is the actual conclusion? That they need to have. Without that, they should not really do that. That's one thing. The third thing is, I see a lot of students get trapped in time. As in, when they kind of get stuck with the question. When they get stuck with the question, they are so hell-bent on that, they're not moving on.
They end up losing time.
I think eliminate options. If you're able to eliminate 2 options, you have 2 options. Good, take a thing and then move on it.
MMT, gut feeling,
and then don't waste time.
Still doesn't working, leave
it. Don't waste time. There are 3 classical mistakes. And interesting thing is, you asked me what are the 3 mistakes that most common mistakes made. I'm going to flip the thing again because flip is my favorite thing, right? I'm not going to talk, I've spoken about the mistakes in the exam. But do you know what? Critical reasoning is one area. The way it has to be prepared the way it has to be attempted in the exam has to be very different from the way it is to be prepared, unlike other areas. Because it's a knowledge-oriented thing. It's not a knowledge-oriented thing, unlike other areas, right? What I mean is, in the exam, you have to be quick. You don't have too much time. You kind of quickly go through it. But when you're practicing critical reasoning, do exactly ulta. When you are saying, hey, I want to practice 6 critical passages. Let me kind of practice them. Don't worry about time. There comes your clarity of purpose. Focus on MMT. Focus on your premises, arguments and stuff. Focus on, do your deliberations. Automatically what happens is, you are learning the nuts and bolts of it. What kids do is, in the preparation, they try to, while they're preparing, I have seen kids, what they do is, they kind of, hey, have you done critical reasoning today? Yes, I've done for half an hour. I've done so many questions. I've done yes, no, I've got the answers. Then they go to the exam and expect that to improve. It will never happen. You have done half an hour of critical reasoning. You have to do 1 hour of discussion, 1 hour of detailing. In the exam, it can be fast. In the exam, they are then thinking, what is not the answer, why the answer? I think that's one mistake they have to make. And that's why I'm saying, outside exam, what they have to do, 2 common mistakes: make a debate club, make a debate study group, regularly create arguments, ask. One other interesting idea I'll tell you. Outside the exam, you need not even solve questions. Critical reasoning is one area, a beautiful area. Whatever I'm going to say now, as teachers, you might not feel okay with it. It's not about solving questions, critical reasoning. A lot of people make a big mistake of solving. It's about reading passages. Solving questions can come later. The first thing is, go read as many different type of passages you can and ask yourself, did I get the message right? Did I get the method of what the passage is about? Did I get the tone? Did I get the premises correct? Did I get the conclusion correct? Did I understand the assumptions? Let them do this. If they can practice 5 to 10 passages every day without actually solving questions, they spend so much time on solving questions, they do not get the passage right. What do they use? Debate it, focus on understanding the passage, and like I said, and the passage better way. There's nothing better than reading editorials. There's nothing, they're reading anyway. People read novels, etc. I think you have to graduate from fiction to non-fiction. You have to graduate from lighter books to heavier books, lighter books to, this is the only way that can happen. That's why I said, what you read is not important, how you read is more important. What you watch is not important, how you watch is important.
So it's not about the thing, it's about the analysis, the depth of analysis that you have to do.
Absolutely. That is what makes a difference.
So even if I do 2 or 3 passages, but if I am analyzing it from different perspectives, that would build my critical reasoning.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. So they need not solve questions. I'm saying, instead of assume 5 passages, each passage 4 or 5 questions, like you said, instead of solving 30, 40 questions, let them spend time on doubling the number of passages they can work on. Instead of 5, let's focus on 10 passages, but no questions. But each passage with their friend, let them say, let's deconstruct this passage. let's analyze this passage.
Right.
Let's analyze the message, method, tone.
Right.
Let's analyze the premises, arguments, premises, conclusion, assumptions. Let's kind of debate. Let's kind of construct it. Let's kind of, you trust me, it will make a lot of difference.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Now, sir, something that is the key, or right now, I would say the question that has been repeatedly asked and a question that is required to be answered, given that we are at the last few months, right? Students are asking, because given that for last few years, logical reasoning is one of the toughest section. What they want to know is how much time should they invest? Should they leave questions? How much scores they should anticipate, or say what is a good score? What is a good timing? What is a framework, overall framework in terms of what they have to do on exam day?
I think CLAT is an exam. I think we do it on the boot camp, we do it with Premier Club and stuff like that. But just because this critical listening, let's discuss that part, right? In the 120 minutes, 5 sections. I think critical listening, you should give 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
30 minutes is mandatory for critical listening. And the 24 odd questions that we have,
Right.
I think they should not, unlike verbal, which also has 24 questions, I think, right? 20 to 24
questions. Yeah.
In verbal, you can target 20 plus also.
Right.
Right? But logical is a place if you can target getting somewhere between 15 and 18.
Right.
15 and 18 should be a good score.
Right.
Because if you talk about, I'll just give you 2 examples. I'm talking about the top notch. I'm not going to talk about mediocre. I'm going to talk about top notch.
Right.
All India toppers, and then let's talk about top 3, top 5 law schools. Right?
Yeah.
People who have to score 90 plus to get into top 3, top 5 law schools, or people who have to get that 105 plus, 105, 110 to be in the top 10 in the country.
Yeah.
Even those who are having 105, 110, they probably are attempting everything. Or they're probably attempting this thing. But the thing is, they probably get somewhere around 18, 20, 18, 20,
18, 20.
18, 20, 18 at the max, right? Because there's 12 marks that they lose, or they're this thing, right? 10 of them probably are left, another 3, whatever it is, right? 4 or 5 mistakes and 10 left. Or assume you attempt everything and you got 10 wrong or 12 wrong. Either ways, that means they get scoring. I think they get 4 or 5 mistakes in logical, 4 or 5 in legal, and then 1, 2 in English, maths, and couple 3, 4 in GK, right? So same thing, right? Overall, it will be something like somewhere between 15, 3, 4, and 1, 2, like that.
Right.
Now that is, I'm talking about the top 10.
Right.
Now look at those who have to score 90 plus. Those who have to score 90 plus out of 120. Now think of the leeway they have. Logically speaking, if they score anywhere between 15 and 18 out of 24. They have 90 plus I want, 95 plus I want, have 20 ka leeway.
Right.
I think scoring 6, 7 less in logical, scoring 6, 7, 8 less in legal. Am I correct?
Right.
And then you have 15 less here,
right.
and the remaining maths you get 3, 4 less, English you get 2, 3 less. What is the other area? You get GK another 3, 4 less. I think you have that 25 leeway.
Right.
So I think they should understand that. They should target around 18 plus or minus 2, 15 to 18, and with a 30 minutes timeline. You might be able to attempt, the question is more importantly, out of 24, if you're attempting, you definitely should not attempt 24.
Right.
Unless until you're the first bracket that I spoke about. Right. Usually you attempt around 20, 21 and get 17, 18 right is what I want to suggest.
So 30 minutes, 17, 18 can land you in some good top NLUs.
Top NLUs. You are in the top couple of hundreds and you're going to null search, you're going to top 2, top 3 NLUs. Yeah. Right. That's what I was saying.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope this would be very useful, and through comment box also we'll try to bring out more content in relation to this. And as promised, we will also release that booklet that you are talking about.
Absolutely.
We will compile it, the things that have been talked in the class or the session. Along with that, the various techniques that we have talked, and everything will be covered in that particular booklet.
Absolutely.
We'll leave that in the link to that will be left in the description
Let's
box.
do that. And Chandan, I want to tell you, I think all ALP teachers, now that you are the course lead for Abhyaas LawPrep, you are leading course. I want to tell you, a lot of times students have this feeling in critical listening. Their debate with their teachers is more about which option is right.
Right.
Why not A, why not B and stuff.
More like convincing.
Why not this, why not that. I think if we can try, if students can also drive themselves from focusing on what is the right answer to what is the right approach.
Correct.
Focus more on like the things I said today. Trust me, it doesn't take the good thing about this is, it's not something that will take years.
Right.
If you really put 6 to 8 weeks, I think someone's critical listening frame of mind can be developed. Those who are writing CLAT this year, you can still pick up whatever I said today. You can at least pick up 50 to 60% of what I said.
Right.
And those who are not writing this year but the next year, they can they can apply 100% of what we're talking about.
Right.
I'm happy I did this interview. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we come to the end. Again, I thank you for sharing your views and everything. The comment box is open. You can further ask any queries, any questions that you have. With that, we come to an end.
Yeah, all the very best to Abhyaas LawPrep students, particularly writing this year as well as in the coming years. All the very best.